let us turn now to the next lesson, breath and magnetism. The mechanism of the human body shows the nervous system as its principal battery, in which magnetism is prepared by the action of breath. It is when the nervous system cannot function that this battery gets out of order and does not work properly. Many, in order to make this battery of the nervous system work properly, take drugs and other medicines which stimulate the nervous system. But instead of giving power to it, they take away power from it. And in the end, the nervous system becomes accustomed to all such medicines one takes. The nourishment of the nervous system is what breath attracts from space. As far as science goes, it says one gets into one's system oxygen. The mystic goes further in saying not only oxygen, but that life and intelligence, that power and radiance which make the nervous system in perfect order, the result of which is not only good health, but ever-increasing magnetism, which comes forth from the person in her thought, speech, movement, and action, charging one's atmosphere with magnetism, which surrounds one as a fortification and protection against all influences, physical and mental, thus making one live a fuller life. So one could see in this an anticipation of what is called today mind-body medicine or preventative care, where one recognizes the fundamental basis of good health as existing in a state of mind and body that is attuned, calm, able to absorb magnetism from healthy food and drink, but especially from the atmosphere itself, from the vast life field in which our own life field is embedded, the sense of a profound alignment of the body with the mind with the soul with the whole of life. This state of at-one-ment and being at home in the universe, how that's a foundation for good health. And of course there are times when we are subject to all kinds of influences and causes that produce ill health, and we should never advised against prudent use of medicines, but over-reliance on external substances is no substitute for that basic orientation of the subtle body to the all-pervading life in space, and what is possible to be gained, what is possible to be imbibed through the breath itself should never be forgotten in the hurry to fix whatever problem and obtain whatever kind of medication. Certainly medications are often called for, but the fundamental healing power is intrinsic in the universe itself, in the life of the universe. And moreover, there's a caution here about the effect of drugs, and especially, of course, drugs that aren't medically called for, not medically required, and drugs that act as a strong stimulant. That would include alcohol and all other kind of intoxicating drugs. The effect is jarring on the subtle anatomy. On the one hand, it can create it can create an energizing effect, which gives and may even produce a momentary exhilaration or even calm. It can give a kind of temporary boost to one's spirits, but afterward, one sees the effect by seeing the result afterward, after the effect wears off. How one feels afterward depleted and confused, and one's senses dulled. All of this means that excitement of one's subtle physiology was at a price. It was a temporary bestowal of enervation, which then left the system depleted afterward. And in fact, then another result is that one tends to depend upon, one inclines then to depend upon those more and more boosts of that kind, more and more stimulations of that kind, and none seems sufficient. And so it's a very dangerous route. And even in spiritual circles sometimes, these methods are resorted to, but it is ill-advised, because even if there is some momentary ecstatic state that comes, the dependence upon outer substances and the resulting reliance on what is other than what is intrinsic to the divine sustenance of this body through all that has been rendered to us through its own natural nourishment. That reliance is certainly dangerous, and we, in this time, we see that danger around us, and we have friends and relatives who struggle with this, and of course there's a great need to be supportive and to be a friend and to give guidance and to try to build together communities where people won't feel so alone and cut off from the natural joy of life. And spiritual practice is an important part of this, and community is an important part of this. Being present to one another, the arts, there's so much that can stimulate what is natural and beautiful in our lives. And yet there is brokenness in minds and hearts, and one must never minimize the hardship that souls go through in the grasp of addiction. It is a powerful and harrowing force, and so we can do all that is possible to help one another and to help our communities, and fundamentally keep, even in the worst of situations, if there is no other means of aid, prayer itself, to never give up in prayer, never give up on a struggling soul, but keep that soul in your heart, in the light, and be with him or her, whoever it is, throughout whatever that soul is going through. And it will everything at last, all struggles, ultimately are resolved, whether in this world, as we hope, or in the next world. And so let's never give in to despair and hopelessness, but do all we can and pray with a constancy that is perpetual.